Now that we've prepared our chicken, we're going to start braising our chicken. So I have my pot. I'm going to add some oil to the pot. The pot is already hot. And then I'm going to add to that my chicken thighs that have been boned, rolled, tied, and bone stuck back in. And I want to brown them until they're crispy all the way around. So nice and brown. I also want to make sure I don't overcrowd the pan because too much product in the pan, it won't be able to get brown. So I'm just going to let it sit there and brown, and sit there and brown, and turn and roll and sit there and brown. So here's my first round of rolling the chicken. You can see that it's nice and brown on the one side. I'm going to continue to brown and roll and brown and roll and brown and roll. So that's what's happening over the next little bit. I did prepare all 4 chicken thighs, but in this case I'm only browning 2 at a time. So now they're nice and brown. I'm going to take them out of the pan and then put the other 2 into the pan to brown. The heat in this case is a moderate heat or a medium high heat, depending on your stove. So now the chicken thighs are all browned. So I'm going to remove the other 2 chicken thighs from the pan. And then I'm going to look at the oil and make some sort of adjustment call. It is possible that the oil gets too dark in color depending on how many thighs you're rendering or cooking out. So I might have to discard the oil. In this case, the oil looks okay. So I'm going to dump a little bit of the oil, but in that pan I've also taken the chicken fat from my stock and put it into the pan. So I have some chicken fat and the fat from rendering the chicken. So I want to put my carrots in first ahead of the rest of my mirepoix because the carrots take the longest to brown. So I'm going to do my mirepoix. I'm going to brown my mirepoix in stages. So I'm going to let those brown. I'm going to give them just a little bit of a head start. You can see here that they have a little bit of a head start. They're starting to turn brown, but they're not there yet. So I'm going to take my onions and my celery, put them into the pan with the carrots, and then I'm going to cook that mixture, the mirepoix mixture, until it is all evenly dark brown. So it's halfway there. You can start to see that the carrots and the onions are starting to get brown. So what I want to do is I'm going to add, and you can tell there, it's another stage. They're definitely darker now. So at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to add to that my garlic, and I'm going to cook that to aroma. It's important that when you add the garlic that you actually cook the garlic before you start to add any of the other components. If not, what happens is your finished sauce, your finished product is going to have a raw garlic flavor or it's slightly sour. So I recommend cooking that for about a minute and a half. Then I'm going to add to that my tomato paste. And then I'm going to pinsage my tomato paste or cook out my tomato paste. At this point, I've turned down the heat a little bit, so it's now medium or medium low. If you feel there's not enough fat in the pan, you can always add a little more fat, but be careful adding too much more fat. So now I have pinsaged my tomato paste. It's nice and dark. It's cooked out. I'm going to add my white wine to the browned mirepoix and the pinsaged tomato paste. I'm going to take that mixture and I'm going to reduce that au sec, or until almost dry. Now that my mixture has reduced down to au sec, I'm going to put my chicken thighs that have been browned back in with my mirepoix white wine mixture. One thing you won't see me do is put my sachet in there, which is an error on my part. I should put my sachet in there at the same time as I'm adding the rest of my components. So just imagine that I put the sachet in there. And then I'm going to cover my chicken thighs with halfway to 2/3 with chicken stock. That chicken stock is hot. I know there was in a glass jar, but it is hot. And then I'm going to bring this to a simmer. I'm going to place my cartouche that has a hole cut in the middle of it to vent on top of the mixture. I'm going to place a lid on top, and then I have two choices. I can either continue to cook that on the stovetop, or I can place the pan, the cooking pot, into an oven at 350 degrees and cook it until it is fork tender. Be careful if you put it in the oven that whole thing is going to be hot, the lid, the handle, and that's a common mistake among some people. So the cartouche is done, so we're going to get rid of the cartouche. You can smell it. It smells really good. And then I'm going to take one chicken thigh out, and I'm going to test it for doneness. These have been in the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes at 350 degrees. So I'm going to take a fork, and it should be easy to cut. It may not look in the video like it's easy to cut, but I promise it's fully cooked, and it's you don't want it to be falling apart, but you want it to be fork tender. I'm going to remove the sachet from the cooking liquid, and then into a separate pan or into a container, I'm going to strain my cooking liquid. I'm going to put the strained cooking liquid back into the pot. And then the vegetables, normally they're not used anymore. However, I will tell you that what I've done is I've actually eaten them with part of my dinner. They're delicious. But the sauce that's left over, I'm going to reduce that sauce until it's nappe consistency. I'm going to season it with some salt. Fresh ground black pepper. Lemon zest. A little bit of lemon juice. I'm going to stir all that in. And look how nice and shiny that is. Oh, that's delicious. I can smell it just through the video. I'm going to place in there some chopped parsley, chopped rosemary. And the rosemary you want really finely chopped. If it's too big of pieces, you're going to... oh, and there my wife decided that she wanted to hop in the video and add some more parsley to the sauce. So the rosemary you want really finely chopped, because if not, you end up with like pine needles in your teeth. So then don't forget to taste everything. It's the sauce's nappe. I taste it. I think it tastes good. And then my wife wants to be part of the show, so yep, she tasted it. There she is. So she tasted it. She gives her seal of approval. For the cooked chicken thighs, those are still hot. What I want to do though is I'm going to remove the butcher's twine. Please don't serve with the butcher's twine in there. That's a common mistake with students sometimes. They forget that they get all excited about eating the chicken and then they forget to take off the butcher's twine. The carrots, they'll become a little bit of a snack later. And then that bone, because you've already removed it once, it pops right out, leaving your chicken thigh boneless now for your customer with nothing in there besides deliciousness. So now I'm going to plate it. I have some creamy polenta or some soft polenta. That recipe will come in a different video. I have my braised chicken thigh that the butcher's twine has been cut off and the bone's been removed. I have green beans prepared in the same manner as we did during Vegetable Week. A couple of green beans. And then with all that, because I thought it sounded good at the time, I have some sweet and sour pan-roasted onions. Those are delicious. Again, recipe coming on those. I'm going to put those over top of the green beans. And then this is the most important part for me, and it's that liquid gold right there. It's the sauce that comes from your braising liquid. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. There's the finished product.